Hello, friends. Welcome. Salo, Mason, happy home. You know, I just heard a comedian this morning talking about Trump's hitting the ground running and how much his actions in the last 3 weeks are like Christmas, where you open up your last gift, but then the adults say, hey, there's something else under the tree for you. No surprise. And it's true. We never know from day to day what's going to come out of the White House anymore. And it's refreshing. I think it's going to be a big culture shock because Americans are not used to politicians hitting the ground running. They're not used to politicians following through. They're used to circle jerk rhetoric. But I think from the reactions of the Democrats, they are absolutely terrified of Elon Musk. And I think they're terrified of Elon Musk, not because of Elon himself. And I don't think they believe any of their bullshit or rhetoric that, he's going to kill people and use tax dollars for different things. I don't think that they actually believe their rhetoric. I think what they're doing is that they are terrified because Doge is going to reveal to the American people why their taxes keep getting raised, why prices are so high, why we are working poor, and these filthy politicians are getting richer and richer and richer, and the stupid shit that they're doing, like the U.S. Aid Department. Ugh. Millions of condoms to Gaza. The Palestinians, I think over there, being run by Hamas, I think contraception is illegal. Why? That's what they're afraid of, is exposure. Americans being exposed to the truth. The other layer of that fear is that Donald Trump assigned this job to a non-politician, someone who is not on the government payroll. And if he had chosen a politician, then the Democrats could hound, harass, manipulate, con, bribe, blackmail, threaten, and thumbscrew another politician into bending to their will. Votes, no votes, end your career, advance your career, and they can't touch him. He is untouchable to them. They have no power or authority over him whatsoever because he is not a fellow politician. That's what they're terrified of. They are not going to get away with being able to dance around the issues or hide anything. This is not going to be political bureaucracy. This is going to be, eviscerating the national debt, finding out where this money is going. And, here's the thing. We trust these politicians to work on our behalf. And I don't know, and, I live in a very tiny world, a very, very, very small bubble, but I doubt I'm going to find a lot of people that went to their Democratic politicians and said, hey, I think that those Hamas rapists should get condoms so they don't impregnate any of the women that they're raping. So here's my tax dollars. Go ahead and give it to them. I don't see Americans doing that. This is why disclosure is so important, because the American people, it's our money and we need to know where it's going, and we never do. We hear all kinds of rhetoric and bullshitting, they'll talk about the good things that are coming out of these budgets. And, that's another thing. Doge, all Doge is doing is read only. And what that means is all they're doing is they're seeing the books, but they're not manipulating the books. They have no authority over the books, but they're going to expose the books. And we're going to find out what these filthy politicians have been doing to get us into such debt. It's just yet another issue of the Trump administration doing something different. And we've heard this a lot lately, and it comes down to one particular quote from somebody, Einstein, I believe. You can't keep doing the same thing and expect a different result. And some of these ideas that he's putting out there, some of these actions that he's taking are completely outside the box. They're outside the norm of what we're expecting from our politicians, or what we believe our politicians are capable of doing. We have been so brainwashed, whitewashed, and conditioned to believing the circle jerk rhetoric that when someone actually answers a yes or no question with the words yes or no, when you ask them where this money is going and they actually tell you, we don't know what to do with that information. This is uncharted territory for Americans, whether you're Dem, Republican, or anything in between. This is all new territory for all of us. We are living in an unprecedented time, and I believe that we are living in the time that was envisioned by the founders of this great nation. And I believe that the founders believed enough in the American people, had faith enough in the Constitution, that we would have full disclosure, that we would be honest. What they didn't bank on was that human beings are flawed. And those flaws come down to self-preservation and our deep, guttural, ancient instinct to survive. And we can't survive in any world without commerce, without money, without products and tangible things exchanging hands. You give money, you get clothes, food, shelter, etc. I don't think that they thought through the human aspect of a nation. And if you think about it, they kept themselves in one place when they birthed the Constitution. I think that they had more faith in the American people. And maybe the American people at that time were thinking on the same lines as our founders. But ultimately, human beings are made up of atoms and molecules and fat cells and ego. Money is not the root of all evil. Ego is the root of all evil. And ego breathes life into fear. Fear wakes up anger. And it snowballs. So I don't think that the Democrats, well, first of all, they're not telling you the truth. Nobody's going to die. DOJ has no power. They are a read-only agency that are outside the thumbscrews of the politicians. There's no seniority, there's no control, there's no nothing. They're not going to be able to buy or threaten their way out of this. And they're going to be held accountable, and that's what they're afraid of. They're afraid of the status quo being shoved out the back door of the car. And they need to be afraid. Because if they have lived decades of a career in politics, lying to the American people, knowing what they know. Because remember, if they didn't know this stuff before Trump took office, Trump wouldn't even know that these things need to be fixed. These are things that they knew about. It's just like with the immigration right now. How could they have possibly, at the stroke of midnight on day one, start removing violent illegal criminals from our nation's interior if they didn't already know where those people were and who they were and what they had done? Because the Biden administration had extensive files and knowledge of these people all over the place. They knew. And when Trump took office, he handed that information over to Homan and the other authorities. So think about that. The Biden administration had all of this information on these violent criminals. They knew. They knew who these people were. They knew where they were. And they didn't care enough about you to stop them. And they have a right to protest. Let them protest. Let them scream. Let them holler. Let them put those lies out there. But let's keep our heads level. Let's listen to all sides. And if something sounds outrageous, don't just, oh my God, that's outrageous. How could they possibly say that? That's ridiculous. No. Step back and look at it and go, what the hell? And then look into it. See what you think. You never know. It might actually make friggin' sense. But I think everyone needs to back away from radical support, this anger movement of the Democrats, and step back and think about why. They're not concerned about you. They're not worried that you're not going to have food, because those are the things that are never going to get touched. Trump said that himself. He wrote it into law. Your programs and vital things are not going to be taken away. But we are going to stop $15 million in condoms going to Hamas. Trump is going to stop loan forgiveness for Hamas terrorists posing as students in our universities. These are things that are going to get eliminated. But all the good stuff is going to stay. It's all just the nature of things. When wild animals are backed into a corner, they're going to strike. And that's what's happened. These wild, out of control Democrats have been backed into a corner. They are going to be exposed. The truth is going to be revealed. And they are absolutely scared shitless. They're not protesting on your behalf. They're screaming, chanting, and protesting on their behalf. They will be exposed. They will lose their jobs. They might be brought up on charges. They might lose their money. They don't care about you. They used vulnerable Americans as a cover for their evil plots. I think they call that in the mob world money laundering. I don't know. We'll see. And until next time, do good and be good. And if you're going to protest, educate yourself and know that what you're protesting for is real and true and right.